Hey there, this is Dean Clean from the Dead Milkmen.
Christian Camaro, I ran over my neighbors. Christian Camaro, now I'm in all the papers.
And if you're listening to my voice, then you must be listening to the New Wave Music Podcast.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the New Wave Music Podcast. As always, this is Steve.
Hey, and this is T-Bone. Before we begin, though, we'd like to welcome a new sponsor, Offside Apparel. We needed custom shirts for the Oingo Boingo Former Members concert, and I found Offside Apparel, and was I glad that I did, Steve. Great prices and service.
You can design online or upload your own designs on their website at offsideapparel.com. Perfect solution for family reunions, schools, clubs, companies, you name it. If you need custom printed or embroidered apparel, check out Offside Apparel. Plus, they ship everywhere.
And if you use the code NEWWAVE at checkout, all one word, New Wave, you'll get 10% off your entire order through the end of 2023. Once again, that's offsideapparel.com. We want to give a thanks to our listeners in Tappahannock, Virginia. We really appreciate you listening out there.
All right, T-Bone, let's jump into today's episode. Why don't you get things started for us?
Sounds good. All right, so today we're going to start off with the latest album from The Damned. You'll remember them from such songs as Alone Again or...
You could be in love with almost anyone. You think people are the greatest fun. And I will be alone again tonight for you.
Grimly Fiendish.
Grimly fiendish. We'll send you just where you belong, where the children can't be found.
And Smash It Up.
I'm gonna scream and shout to my dying friend. I'm gonna smash it up till there's nothing left. Ooh, smash it up. Smash it up, smash it up. Ooh, smash it up. Smash it up, smash it up.
So this album is called Darkadelic, and it just came out here in 2023. As a matter of fact, it was released in April of this year. Steve, this is their 12th studio album, and their most recent before that was called Evil Spirits, and that was back in 2018. And so on this album, we have Dave Vanyan on vocals. Dave's real name is David Lett. And we have Captain Sensible on guitars, and his real name is Raymond Byrne. We also have Paul Gray on bass, Monty Oxymoron, which is a fabulous name, on keyboards, and his real name is Lawrence Burrow, and William Granville Taylor on drums. Now, Dave Vanyan and the Captain are the only original members in the band currently. Paul Gray has been with them since 1980. Monty since 1996, and William is the baby of the group, 2022.
Well, T-Bone, I got to admit, jumping into this album or this review, I had no idea really who The Damned was. I maybe have heard their songs, but I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I've been far more familiar with Captain Sensible's work over the years, such as What?
Captain, I said what? He said, Captain, I said what? He said, Captain, I said what? He said, Captain, I said what you want?
Said Captain, said what? Said Captain, said what? Said Captain, said what?
And One Christmas Catalog.
And there's a turkey in the wings. He doesn't dance and he can't sing. One Christmas catalog, too many. One Christmas catalog for you.
No, we're in the same boat. I mean, I knew a couple of songs, but I haven't really followed them. I mean, they've been around, Steve, since 1977. So, yeah, I don't know what we were thinking of not, being involved in listening to them.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious what our opinions are going to be on this album, so let's get things started. The album kicks off with the track, The Invisible Man.
Can't understand why things are moving
In preparing for this album review, I read that The Damned wanted to have more of a 70s guitar-driven rock vibe for this album, and that is definitely what you get with this opening track. Now, not knowing much about The Damned, I'm really not sure what to think about this track. What I am sure is about halfway into this song, it pretty much goes off the rails, with a quicker tempo, distorted vocals, and a bit of organ, and a laugh that will haunt your dreams.
Yeah, Dave kicks things off with a strong kind of goth punk lyrics and a driving, pounding beat. And midway through, that beat, just as you mentioned, Steve, goes into overdrive along with the captain's guitars, which are all over the place, but in a good way. And I really also like that piano, and you mentioned the organ that kind of plays underneath. I really found this to be a great way to start off this album.
Well, let's move on to track number 2, Bad Weather Girl. How this song starts out is what I expected to hear from The Damned, from the organ mix with a little bit of chimes of some bells going in the background. Unlike the opening track, this was a song that I actually really enjoyed. That frenzy chorus worked for me, as did the bass, the percussion, and that bell mix that blends into a guitar solo. This is a song I'd recommend checking out.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite songs on the album. I really love how the way this song begins, a storm in the background, and you mentioned those chimes. Then suddenly the song goes into fast punk beat. Vanian uses the pace to his advantage, moving from kind of a slower delivery right into the chorus, which is a little bit more melodic than the rest of it. And a late guitar solo changes the direction of the track before we go right back into that thrust of the song. Up next is the third track, You're Gonna Realize. And this is the shortest track on the album. It starts with some outstanding guitars and exceptionally smooth vocals. The rest of the musicianship, especially the drumming, are also put together just right. And during the chorus, this one's a little bit softer than some of the other tracks, but I certainly think it works.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how the percussions really drive this track. It's a song that, like you said, doesn't wear out its welcome. It's really only 2.5 minutes long.
Yep.
The vocals are mixed well with some good, solid musicianship. It makes this a very enjoyable song to check out.
And up next is the fourth track and another one of my favorite songs, Beware of the Clown.
The circus is coming, it's coming to town. A tent full of misfits to mess you around. Just pack up your trailer and don't come around for a long, 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 long time.
Beware of the Clown, He's Not So Charming is a great way to lyrically open this song. Vanian sounds fantastic, and maybe even the best on the album, I felt. His goth styling adds so much to this track, and the rhythm guitar in conjunction with the lead guitar is just hard and fast enough. And along with some steady percussion, it creates a fantastic effect.
Well, T-Bone, I didn't expect to hear a political song from The Damned, but with this one, I felt the lyrics were on point. And unlike some artists' political songs, this one just did not hit you over the head and become a distraction.
100%.
This one, the lyrics were great. The vocals and the musicianship are on point. This is one that I was surprised became an album highlight for me. Let's jump on to track number 5, Western Promise.
Driving that long journey into night, and the night is coming whether or not you want it to come. Night is coming now, I won't be the lonely one with you, holding true.
The tempo slows down a bit from what we've heard prior. This song I found the vocal delivery to be solid, the softer vocals I found to be a nice mix, and it features some great guitar work. I was also surprised to hear some horns come into the mix later into the song. This is another song that grew on me as I listened to this album a few times for this review.
Yeah, the beat on this track is actually a little bit more faster paced than the other instruments, which creates a real interesting dichotomy. You're absolutely right. Overall, it's a slower song, and I felt it was a rather beautiful one at that. The backing vocals during the chorus have an amazing effect and make this song sound a great deal different than what we've already heard.
Moving on to track number 6, Wake the Dead. Wake the Dead was written specifically to be played at funerals. I guess through social media, since Captain Sensible had become aware that Damned songs were being played at fans' funerals. So Captain Sensible went on to say, so I thought, well, they're playing these songs because the deceased loved the band. Why not write one that was actually for that purpose? And what you get is a nice rock song. The vocals and the musicianship, like we've heard throughout the album, is on point. But I found some of the lyrics that came across that the band was maybe trying just a bit too hard to hit that mark. They just didn't stick with me, but I'm also not a huge Damned fan. So I understand this track may be more for hardcore fans of the band.
Yeah, I think I probably like this one a little bit more than you did. I think that if any track gives off a goth vibe, this is the one, primarily due to Dave's vocals. The captain has his guitar going into overdrive, matching the speed of the drumming, and a significant change of tone hits about midway in, but then it gets stronger with more brilliant guitars and some really exciting drums. Next up is the 7th track, Follow Me.
Every day's a payday. Oh, when the clicks come rolling in. Now she's the queen of the self-made, and I'm the king of spin. Follow me. Gotta take some time for this wannabe. I'm the next in line for celebrity. Yeah, it's all about me.
Musically, now Steve, for me, this is a song that really hits a lot of different points. But musically, the track reminded me of something in the vein of like a mid-era Clash. It's sonically a strong punk song. Van Ian's vocals, as are often the case on this album, give it more of that goth sound, while at the same time bringing the sound of vocals straight out of the 80s new wave bands like Echo and the Bunnymen or Teardrop Explodes, while still making them his own vocals.
Well, T-Bone, it's a song like this that I'm really glad we're doing this podcast because we seem to have complete opposite views on this song. This song, I got to admit, I'm not sure if I reached Damned fatigue listening to this album straight through, but it did nothing for me until the chorus hit. Once the chorus hit, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit, but then also at times it sounds like Dave is trying to do his best Elvis impersonation, and that just took me right out of the song.
All right, well, up next is the 8th track, Motorcycle Man.
I'll be your man.
Now, the band goes full punk with hard driving drums on this one. The guitars, drums, and Van Ian's vocals take things to a new and different level. Throw in some cool organ, and this is a thrashing track that keeps the album moving in the right direction. And when Taylor takes over on the drums in the middle of the song, you know this is who the Damned are.
Well, this track is probably definitely the most rock or metal on the album. The opening of the song really did nothing for me. When they hit the chorus and that use of the organ comes in, it did pull me back in. That was briefly until I got to nitpick Dave's vocals just a little bit. They kind of sound a little bit more gruff or rough on this track. And at times, I thought I was listening to a slowed down version of a Rob Zombie song. We'll see how we feel about track number 9, Girl, I'll Stop at Nothing. Unfortunately, as we get deeper into this album, I'm finding songs to be less and less engaging. and they feel like they were just added to stretch out the album length. This is definitely one of those tracks. I would say if you want to see what a filler track sounds like or a definition of a filler track, this is it. Check this song out. If not, do yourself a favor and skip it.
I'm wondering if we listen to the same album, Steve. I think Captain Sensible keeps the guitar rock going, accompanied by a strong drum beat. This is actually one of the longer songs on the album, but because it has such a relatively fast tempo, it really flies by. There's some really nice changes of pace within the song, which come out of nowhere and give this track some extra life. So that'll take us up to the track number 10, Leader of the Gang.
Leader of the gang. Whoa. Now the suits are torn and frayed, and the songs are seldom played, though they still sound just as great. Leader of the gang. Whoa.
This is actually another one of my favorite songs on this album. And I love the line, when the thumping beats were all the rage, you'd be stomping across the stage. Now you're wiped off the page. And those opening lyrics of this amazing song, I tend to think are a little autobiographical. Everything is here and what you'd want from a good punk rock song. Excellent guitar, an outstanding beat, and incredible vocals. It all works together in just the right way to create one of the best tracks on this album.
Well, T-Bone, I'm not sure if you knew this, but this track actually was based on the crimes of former glam rock star Gary Glitter.
Interesting.
And I'm going to say that this track should not be buried this far down into the album. It's one that I did enjoy. The guitar riff I found to be a nice accompaniment to guide you through the song. I enjoyed how the vocals are mixed in, and I think I found another track that I would definitely recommend on this album.
That'll take us up to the 11th track, From Your Lips.
You bring me to my knees, where I just wanna please, where your sweetness flows like honey, a goddess of my dreams, with words that so intrigue, and lips that speak of promise.
As we've seen and heard on this album, the Damned don't want to be pigeonholed into one style. This one goes back to a little bit more of a goth sound, including some great keyboards in the background. It does feature a faster beat during the chorus, but then settles into that darker sound for a good portion of the track.
This is another one like many of the songs on this album that I just felt were okay, but nothing really stood out, or it's going to leave an impression after you've listened to the album and make you want to go back to re-listen to it. It's one for me, if listening to it once was enough, and I'd probably recommend skipping this one. Well, let's close out the album with track number 12, Roderick.
Who do you think you are? You gatecrash situations, looking for confrontation. Who do you think you are? Just an uninvited stranger, not allowed to table, but you try. Like in Poe's Raven.
Oh boy, where do I begin on this track? I think the best way to sum this one up is if you ever wanted to hear what a goth song would sound like by Spinal Tap, this would be it. It could easily pass for a Spinal Tap song. And the lyrics do not help this song, such as, like in Poe's Raven with Booner Craven, I like nothing more than you darken my doorstep, nevermore. The lyrics come across like the band is trying way too hard to pull in that goth following. The piano mixed with the violin did nothing to continue to pull me into this one. But what really got the song to jump the shark for me was when that monk chanting came in.
Sonntem esse inventes sumus, sonntem esse inventes.
Yeah. Well, we definitely disagree on this one. And this one's primarily set to piano. The closing track also begins actually with a spoken word from Dave. And it totally is. And I must say, I agree with you that it is the most different song on the album. Guitars, horns, and strings play in the background, creating a nearly ghoulish sound. I found it very effective. And in an album of the unexpected, it fits right in. Some chanting that you mentioned a little later in the track cements the overall tone that this band was going for.
I have to admit that I knew nothing about the Damned going into this album. And I really wasn't I was a fan of theirs. I've heard of the band, but I couldn't tell you a song from theirs from if you played it for me. This album did not make me a fan of the band. Yes, there was a few tracks that I enjoyed, but with this album, if you're not a fan of the band, I'd probably say not to recommend this album. If you're a fan of the band, you probably like the album. I'm curious what you think of it. I have the feeling me and T-Bone are going to be complete opposites on the spectrum on this one. but unfortunately for me, this one's not a recommend.
Well, your guessing would be correctly, and you're right. I really don't know much about the Damned at all. I did see them in 2022, though the only original member was Dave, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't familiar with most of the songs. Therefore, going into Darkadelic, I didn't know what to expect. I really like what I heard here, and now I want to explore their catalog. And Steve, yes, we are on polar opposites of this because currently I have this album in my top 10 for the year. So needless to say, for me at least, if you want a little punk, a little goth, and a whole lot of engaging music, I wholeheartedly recommend checking this one out.
All right, T-Bone. Well, since we're in between reviews, let's jump into some music news.
Yeah, let's do. I think we mentioned an episode or two ago that Gene Loves Jezabel, the Jay Aston version, has a new album set for December 1st, and it's called X, Love, Death, Sorrow. And it does look to be a cover album. The first single is a cover of Edwyn Collins' A Girl Like You.
Now just like a song in the days of yore, here you come a knocking, knocking on my door. Well, I've never met a girl like you before.
Well, T-Bone, the Fixx out of the blue dropped 2 new singles, Wintertime, and Someone Like You.
It's just wreckage from a storm, washing up on the shore, and it can't wait. It's gonna take someone like you to turn it around, find a middle ground, someone like you.
And a rumor is, I guess the Fixx said they might, for the time being, just release singles instead of another full-length album. So we might be getting sprinkles of the Fixx coming out throughout 2024. One can only hope.
Yeah, no kidding. And then somebody that we haven't heard from in a long time, Peter Schilling, has a new Christmas track, and it's called Underwater Christmas.
Underwater Christmas, see life in perfect bright. See life in perfect bright. Celebrate all creatures, 'cause it's Christmas time. It's Christmas time.
Well, T-Bone, speaking of Christmas, one of my other favorite bands, Oingo Boingo Former Members, which is pretty much everybody from Oingo Boingo but Danny Elfman, with their new singer, they released another EP called Dead Man's Party. It features No One Lives Forever,
I'm so happy, dancing all the grim reaper cuts, but he can't get me. I'm as clever as can be, and I'm very quick, but don't forget, you've only got so many tricks. No one lives forever.
Long Breakdown, and the title track, Dead Man's Party.
Hey, I was struck by lightning, walking down the street. I was hit by something last night in my sleep. It's a dead man's party. Who could ask for more? Everybody's coming. Leave your body out the door. Leave your body and soul out the door.
And speaking of Oingo Boingo Former Members, just yesterday at the time of recording, T-Bone and myself attended their Salt Lake City show, put on a great show there.
Exhausting. It was just fantastic. Yeah. We mentioned, I think in our ad, that we got some shirts from Offside Apparel for the Carl Graves fan club, something that we've been doing for a couple of years. And, the whole front row of the audience had these shirts on, and even Brendan, the lead singer, we gave him one of the shirts and he wore it during the first set. It was both hilarious and fun and exciting.
And if Oingo Boingo Former Members do come to your area, you get a chance to check them out. Definitely check them out. Always put on a great show.
Oh, don't miss them. Absolutely. And then last here is Joe Jackson is releasing another single called What a Racket.
Well, I don't really mind it, I take it as I find it, but I don't care what anybody thinks. And there's one thing I can't take, it's the noise that people make. What a din, what a racket, I don't think I can hack it, I didn't come in looking for a fight. Pass a law and I'll back it, pass a bag and let me pack it, I'll do anything if it'll bring me sleep at night.
From his upcoming album, Mr. Joe Jackson presents Max Champion, and that album will be released on November 24th.
All right, T-Bone, well, enough with the news. Let's jump back into some music reviews.
Let's do.
The next album we're going to review is the newest album from Pretenders. You're no doubt going to remember them from such hits as Brass in Pocket.
I'm special, so special. I gotta have some of your attention. Give it to me. I got rhythm, I can't miss a beat. I got new skank.
Back on the Chain Gang.
To a place in the past we've been cast out of. Now we're back in the fight. We're back on the train. Oh, back on the chain gang.
And Middle of the Road.
In the middle of the road, we see the darndest things. Like fat guys driving round in jeeps through the city wearing big diamond rings and silk suits.
Yes, this album is called Relentless. As with The Damned, this is the Pretenders' 12th studio album. It was released here in September of 2023. And their previous, which we already took a listen to, was 2020's Hate for Sale. And, Steve, I was looking over who was on this album, and I found a couple of different sources that said opposite things. So I'm just going to go with one of them that I found. So Chrissie Hynde, of course, is on vocals, rhythm, guitar, and harmonica. Martin Chamber on drums, percussion, and vocals. Nick Wilkinson on bass. James Walborn on guitar and keyboards. Eric Hayward on pedal steel guitar. Now, Chrissie Hynde and Martin Chambers are original members from the late 70s. Nick came to the band in 2005, and both James and Eric in 2008.
All right, well, let's jump into this album, T-Bone. Starting off with the first track, Losing My Sense of Taste.
All my favorites seem tired at all. My whole collection now feels like a waste. I'm losing my sense of taste.
A nice blend of rocking guitars and percussions kicks off this track. Chrissie's vocals still sound great. Unfortunately, I found this track to be just kind of bland and boring. Not the best track to open up the album, and I'm hoping tracks that will follow are going to improve this in quality.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with this one. We have some warbly guitar and a steady drum beat that open the song. And before long, Steve, you're absolutely right. The familiar vocals of Chrissie come in, and she does sound just fantastic as ever. Now, what I might just disagree a little bit is I too did feel that this track was a little weak to begin with. The instrumentation and vocals are all well done, but at first it didn't pull me in. But I must say, after a number of listens, I did really start to appreciate this one more.
Let's see what we think about track number 2, A Love.
I love to make the day go by like a gentle breeze. I love to make the difficult disappear with ease. Love like ones I've read about or heard about it in song. A love like that might come to me, but never for too long.
I enjoyed the softer tempo on this track. The musicianship and vocal delivery are good. The song builds up to a decent chorus. I think this track is a bit of an improvement from the opening track, but really so far nothing has really pulled me in and captured my attention on the album.
You know, I felt there was far more engaging guitars to begin on this song. And as much as I liked them on the first track, I found this one far better. The vocals are exceptional as well. This is one of those songs that brings back, I think at least for the most part, that classic Pretenders sound. The third track is next, called Domestic Silence.
Domestic silence is making me cold. I've told you that before. All I do for you, do you feel it too? Do you feel it too?
The band slows things down a fair amount on this track. The percussion is a bit more average, but I did appreciate the kind of grungy guitars on it. They, as well as a bit of wailing vocals from Chrissy, are the highlight of the song for me. She has a really nice range that complements the instruments.
Well, T-Bone, I'll say this. So far, each track is at least sounding unique. I enjoyed the guitar riff. I also like that semi-blues tempo that goes throughout the track. The lyrics and vocal delivery from Chrissy make this a song that I was able to enjoy.
Next up is the fourth track, The Copa.
I woke up this morning with a call on my mind. Lost days of cryptic signals I was sad to leave behind.
Now, the tempo remains slower, but the guitar work as well as the bass are exceptional. Still, the pace of this track does a bit of disservice to the outstanding musicianship. It's difficult to remain interested despite how well the instruments are played. Therefore, I'm a little bit mixed on this track, and whenever I hear the word Copa, I'm always thinking of Barry Manilow. So this threw me off just a little bit. I think the singing is what really does make this track one of the better on the album, though.
Here we get the first of many ballads on the album. This one, like the tracks that have come before it, Chrissy's vocals are amazing. They sound tight, as is the musicianship, like you pointed out. This song, I agree with you, did feel really to drag on. It's one that I don't think I'd revisit because they should have trimmed this by maybe a minute to 2 minutes. It would have made it a tighter song. But so far, we're 4 tracks in, and I'm really hoping this album picks up. T-Bone, so far, I've got to say this album's right now really doing nothing for me.
Let's see where it goes.
Yes.
What's up next?
Track number 5, Promise of Love.
From darkness and sorrow, turn sadness to joy, and the past to tomorrow. The promise of the love. The promise of the love.
The piano ballad again features Christy's vocals front and center. They sound great. This is a short 3-minute song, but it feels double than that. It feels, I could have sworn it was like a 5 to 6 minute song. The problem I think I'm finding so far on these tracks is they're just dull and unfulfilling.
Yeah, you know, piano and finger snaps start this song. Then it does follow up with some strings that I felt fit in perfectly. Once the drums and bass come in, the picture is complete. And I completely agree with you on what you're saying about this album so far, but I did find this one to be a rather beautiful ballad with some stirring vocals.
Oh, it could be a beautiful ballad. It's just went on a little long, and it's just
right.
So far, there's not a track on here I'd say I'm going to throw on a heavy rotation.
No, I completely agree with you. And that'll take us to track number 6, Merry Widow.
I'm a divorcee, but I feel like a widow. A merry, merry widow. A merry, merry widow. I'm a divorcee, but I feel like a widow.
What we have here is, yet again, another slower song. At this point, I'm hoping for something a little more lively. The guitars are very nice, as are the backing vocals which accompany Chrissy. As the song progresses, though, it does get a bit more lively, but the tempo remains a little bit more on the slower side. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the pace changes and the track goes into an entirely different direction. At that point, my interest was piqued, but it was getting to be a little too late to really fully enjoy this track.
Yeah, we're teased with some electric guitars that blend into Chrissy's vocals to kick off this track. I had the feeling that the pace was going to pick up. Instead, like you said, we get another slow song that kind of still feels stretched out. Even halfway through the song, when the tempo picks up, the song still feels like it's slowly crawling to the finish. It's another one I really wish things would pick up. But let's see where we go with track number 7. Let the Sun Come In.
We don't have to get fat, we don't have to get old, we don't have information that we have to withhold. Free as the bike is back when they were thin. We don't have to fade to black, let the sun come in.
Deep into the album, we finally get a track to wake you up. This was the lead single that was released earlier this year, and you can see why it was the lead single, and it's the best track on the album. The chorus delivery reminds you of how good the Pretenders can be. It's a shame that the tracks that have come before it feel like it's lacking the passion the band has in this song.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with that one, Steve. Finally, after a number of songs that have left me cold, we have a more standard Pretenders rocker that I can get behind. The instruments are all on target with some of the best guitar we've heard so far. And Chrissy has found her voice, which has been good, but something has audibly changed with this track, much for the better. The 8th track is called Look Away.
Look away, I challenge you to try. Look the other way, look somebody in the eye. And while you're at it, please consider taking me along. I tried to look away, but the pull was much too strong.
And Steve, just like that, we're back to a slower song. But I will say this one maybe is a little bit more impressive. The guitar work is exceptional and precise. I thoroughly enjoyed what I would call the simplicity of this song. It's very engaging. Also, the percussion elements used wisely really fit in well. And Chrissy has some real passion, which I haven't heard throughout all of this album, and it's greatly appreciated.
When this song starts off with that acoustic guitar mix with Chrissy's vocals, I was intrigued. Add in the added use of the gong that I felt was a nice musical highlight. Unfortunately, the use of the gong towards the end of the song does start to overstay its welcome. And one thing that you've pointed out in prior reviews, this one they just kept repeating the title of the song over and over again.
Yes.
Much to this dismay, and it's another track I feel like we're kind of back to the substandard that we've heard on the album.
No,
so
I totally
far.
understand. So up next is the 9th track, Your House is on Fire.
See ya, house is on fire. Wouldn't wanna be house is on fire. See ya, house is on fire. Wouldn't wanna be house is on fire, fire. The others let you down. They counted you out.
So the acoustic guitar and bass drum that open up this track are just great. But again, this is a slower song, and there's just too many of these on this album. Chrissy's vocals are typically fine, but lyrics such as "Your house is on fire, wouldn't want to be ya" come across as just silly.
Yeah, this is another song that listening to it had that slow, stretched out feel. However, one positive note on this song, I felt that the contrasting vocals, when they kind of get into the chorus of Your House is on Fire with Chrissy, and I don't know who the male vocalist was that was singing with her. I felt that was a nice change of pace from what we've heard.
Right.
This one here, like you said, the lyrics kind of really pull you out, and it's just another slow song, and they're all really just starting to sound slow, stretched out. And I don't know if there's like a demo versions we're hearing. They just don't sound as polished as the Let the Sun Come In.
Right. Well, up next is the 10th track, Just Let It Go.
Chains round my ankles, locks on the door. The shackles that bound me don't anymore. In the end, I let it go. Maybe it's best just let it go.
And Steve, I got to be honest with you. I really don't have a whole lot of comments on this track for the same reasons I've said on so many previous tracks. The instrumentation is exceptional, especially the guitars, but it's yet another mid-tempo song that I got to tell you, I'm getting a little tired of.
Yeah, this song here, the only note I really kind of have as positive is that once the chorus kicks in, it makes for an enjoyable chorus. But overall, it's another song that just has that filler vibe. This one really felt like it should be a B-side or a demo. T-Bone, I'm really trying to push through this album, and it's really hard to do. It's just all kind of the same tempo, same pace, and the songs are really blending together now. If this would have been a better song, maybe if they trimmed it by 2 minutes, but at over 5 minutes, it feels like it's a marathon just trying to get through this track, let alone the album.
Yep.
Let's move on to track number 11, Vainglorious.
Every hue of the broken prisons and the smallest of organisms. Vainglorious. Vainglorious. Vainglorious.
Towards the end of the album, we get a track that has that Pretenders feel to it that we know and love. It's a shame that this song is the second to last song on the album, and you're probably asleep by now if you're listening to this album in its entirety. The musicianship and Christy's vocals are tight and makes this a great song to pair up with the other highlighted song on the album, Let the Sun Come In.
Yeah, Steve, finally, and I mean finally, we get a rocker with some serious attitude. This is what I wanted from this album, but it's been far outweighed by less interesting tracks. There's a background vocal throughout I found exciting and added greatly to the sound, and both the guitars and especially the drumming are top notch. As a matter of fact, this song is under 3 minutes, and that was the only disappointment, as I wanted so much more.
Well, T-Bone, we finally reached the end of the album.
Thank goodness.
With the final track, I Think About You Daily.
To this on my mind, you never can get over losing those you did unkind. I think about you daily.
And what a surprise. Here we get another slow song to close out the album. We've established that Chrissy's vocals sound great and she can still hit those notes. This one does feature some nice string work. And that the string work's actually composed and conducted by Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead. Apparently, Chrissy Hynde met Greenwood back in 2017. They expressed interest in working with each other, and they finally got around to doing it.
After such an outstanding song with Vainglorious, yes, we're back to a piano-based ballad. And that being said, I really did feel that it was beautifully sung and produced. And those strings that you mentioned, they do come in and complement Chrissy's vocals. But at 6.5 minutes long, the longest track on this album, I started to lose interest despite how well it was made.
Yeah, and if this album wasn't maybe 90% slow ballads that all sounded like this would have been a great song.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, even with the last song being a ballad, it can work as long as you do have that material up to it that make it something that you can look forward to.
Overall, I was excited to revisit new material from Pretenders, especially after the last album that we reviewed, Hate for Sale. That was a great album. Really enjoyed that one. But as you can tell with this album, it did nothing for me. There was a few songs that I found to be good. Vainglorious and When Let the Sun Come In are ones I'd recommend. Find them on your streaming service, buy those singles. But overall, as an album, this is one I would not recommend. I found it dull, stretched out, and just really unforgettable, which is a shame. I think this is the first time on the podcast that we've had album reviews both album reviews that I just did not recommend both of them.
Yeah, and we're definitely on different sides with the Damned's new album. But yeah, needless to say, I can't recommend this album either. I have nothing against slower songs and ballads, but that is not what I wanted or expected from the Pretenders. And with an album titled Relentless and the cover art of a bruised young boy with boxing gloves, I expected something a little more vital and punchy, no pun intended. But that is not the case. This is an example of an album that has so much going for it, especially musically, that in the end, it can't keep the excitement going.
Hopefully the excitement returns next episode when we jump into new album reviews from the new one from Duran Duran, Dance Macabre, And we're going to be reviewing some newish material from the Ocean Blue. They released 2 EPs that had some unreleased stuff and some classic songs. So we're going to revisit those ones as well.
And as usual, we'd love to hear your comments either on these reviews, your opinions about what we talked about, your ideas on new albums that bands have put out recently. We'd love to hear from you.
That's a great idea, T-Bone. We're starting to slowly put our 2024 calendar together for schedules. And if you have albums that you feel we should visit, shoot us an email. What's the email address, T-Bone?
It is newwavemusicpodcast@yahoo.com. And of course, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll look forward to talking with you next time.